welcome to another episode of the Keep Making podcast. Today on the podcast, we've got Chris Cunningham of Cunningham Woodworks. He drove up from Indiana with his buddy Travis, and we've been hanging out all morning and early afternoon. I don't even know what time it is right now. Making some stuff. We are making this, which is pretty incredible. For those of you that are watching, for those of you that are listening.
I was like, who are we looking at?
There's a camera right there. But the ones that are just listening, it's a completely clear resin mallet head. But maybe tell me first about what got you into mallets, and we'll start the conversation there. And then, because I want people to know your craftsmanship, and we'll start with that, and then I'll ask you a bunch of different questions.
Sure. You want to know about how I got started into these first, and we'll kind of work into how I screwed up so many that I had to become more of a craftsman about it?
Yes, that's perfect.
That works for me. So I think I got a mallet as a gift for my wife one Christmas, and it was one of those cheap ones that are probably on Amazon, and it's got a head that kind of disconnects from the handle. It's kind of like a tapered, and it worked fine. And then one day I was like, why don't I make one out of a nicer wood? And I made it the exact same dimensions, everything. The handle slid in and out the same way. So, if you swing it, it actually would get tighter towards the end. It was kind of a cool design. And I ended up, just for fun, I don't have any idea where I saw it, but I saw somebody wedge a mallet head to the handle. And, just like what I have done here. And it didn't look anything like these, but I made a mallet. And I recorded a small video of it. And I put it on my Instagram, just mostly for my probably 100 friends at the time to see. And one day I got a direct message on Instagram. Some guy goes, "Hey, I just bought your mallet." I was like, what the heck's this guy talking about? I had forgot that I put it on Etsy.
Oh.
And it'd been on there for 2 months, and then all of a sudden somebody bought it. I was like, oh, well, that's really cool. I get to buy more tools or,
Right.
more wood or something. And so I immediately was like, well, I can sell one. I could sell a few.
Right.
So I went out, and I think I came up with more of this design. Probably not exactly, maybe thinner, a little different. But I made 4 of them, and they sold really quick. And then I made 10 more.
Wait a minute,
and
I'm onto something.
Yeah, and it was like, you take like $10 worth of wood, and you sell an $80 mallet, and it's, I'm probably putting in a little bit of effort. I wasn't really counting my labor. But it's a hobby that was making a little bit of money, and it made it to where I could buy more tools and more stuff. And then, of course, the, other effect was my Instagram started growing from it. People were really going crazy about the looks of them because I was using some exotic woods. This one's pretty tame, ash and white oak, but I've used all kinds of exotic woods and everything, and people really got into them. There's a few other guys making mallets on Instagram, and we all talk and would kind of trade ideas and stuff, and it kind of became that. And then instead of just making mallets as quick as I could, I was trying to get the process down, cleaner and cleaner and more perfect, and I got it down to where without wedging, every one of my handles would stick in absolutely perfect. I got my milling right and got my dimensions right, and I made sure every one of them, if I took a picture of 20 in a row, it would just look like a perfect image,
That's
so
awesome.
It was just my way of kind of going down that rabbit hole and then just getting better and better and better. Even though it's something as simple as a mallet, it still was just something I was enjoying, and people were we're still buying until recently. So eventually they kind of died off, and now it's become just something I do every once in a while.
Right. So you've been a woodworker, a craftsman for 15 years?
Yeah, 15 years.
15 years. But like your Instagram journey and like the mallet things, it's only like 2 years ago?
Yeah, I think I've been on Instagram for 2.5 years, and the mallet thing probably started about 2 years ago.
Okay.
This month or so.
So I think people forget that you had 13 years, or about 12 years of experience in the woodworking space before you made something that people saw and were like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
They might be like, this dude is just a newcomer to Instagram, and it just like starts blowing up all over. But like, I'm curious your relationship between like, you've worked in this space for a very long time, and then this, what some would see is like a really quick rise on Instagram. But maybe demystify that a little bit, because it's not like you just entered the scene and were like, oh, I've never made anything ever in my entire life, and then all of a sudden, here we go.
Yeah. There's a little bit behind that as far as, going into social media with some skill. But really, I don't think I went into it with as much skill as what like, really 10 to 15 years of experience shows. I still went in showing the process, showing my mistakes, and showing that I'm a real person. I just go out in my garage and I tinker around, and so I was just being my real self. I didn't, not everything was totally fabricated and like the best of the best, not all beauty shots. But I think that made me more relatable to people that were new to Instagram and also new woodworkers. There was a lot of guys that, I met on Instagram, and they were like, "Oh, I've only been woodworking for a couple months."
Oh, wow.
And, they were like, "Oh, I'm just going to, kind of work right with you, and I'm going to learn from you." And I'm like, I'm learning right with you. So, no matter how good you get at, one aspect of woodworking or creating or making, as soon as you step into something new, you go into it as as a total learning process.
Right.
So you don't go into it with your head up thinking, I'm going to conquer this, or I have conquered anything. You go into it, as, a student,
I think that's definitely the right approach. I think even most recently, even our conversations on Instagram and having you come up here. I mean, you just recently started doing the whole mold making stuff as well. So, and like I even from a distance, I was like, hey, you don't have to. I know you're okay with the process of learning, but if you want help, you're like, no, I don't want help. I want to learn through my failures. I'm like, okay, all right, cool, that's fine. But because you're trying to cast some Legos. The first one was just like flat and like separated.
Yeah, it oozed out a little bit. And then the next one looked a little better, but not great. And I think I might have been a little ambitious about making something so tiny with so many little details.
Right.
But I mean, I'm never afraid of failing. I'm never afraid of trying something, because eventually if you get it right, it's going to feel really good. If you fail at something 10 times in a row and you do get that final win, it feels so much better than if you would have just, it went perfect the very first time. That'd been all right, but I've been like, I just followed the rules and I went by the book, and it seems a lot more satisfying.
Like building Legos where you do have a rule book.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the Legos of the 80s, not the Legos of the 2020s.
Right.
Yeah.
Those are the better Legos anyways.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was born in '86, so I don't have them. But so woodworking for you is obviously this is a side thing. This isn't like your full-time job. This is something that you actually, like you said, you tinker and you play and you work but like, if someone wanted to get into this space, what would be your number one piece of advice? Because I think people might see things online or see things in however they consume content or whatever, and be like, I want to try that. What would be your first piece of advice for that person getting into it?
Maybe pick a project that you think is obtainable within reason, and only get the tools or materials just for that thing. I see a lot of guys go out and they buy really big awesome tools and go on and on and on, and I've been guilty of it too. I buy tools that I don't use but maybe once a year. But you see them collect a lot of dust. So if you could keep it pretty minimal and just buy the things you need when you need them, aside from if you run into like a Black Friday deal, sometimes you want to pull the trigger while it's the best deal you've ever seen. But for the most part, just pick something you want to make. Like the spheres that I started, I just got in and did. I didn't go and buy like the sphere jig. I didn't buy the most expensive resin. I was kind of using the stuff that was in my shop. It didn't go well.
Right.
But I just got in there and did with the very minimal that I had. And I eventually got there, But all that experimentation really makes it to where, you not only know that it's going to fail, but you kind of learn how, why it failed, or how bad it's really going to be. You learn how hot epoxy can really get.
Very.
Very, very hot. Yeah, with gloves and everything.
Things.
Yes. Yeah. So plastic cups will not survive.
Right.
So, but yeah, I would say, just pick something that
small, but like something attainable, but like don't go crazy at woodcraft. Don't go spend all your money. First.
Yeah, definitely. Like when I first got into turning, I was convinced, you want to make pens, or you want to make bottle stoppers, you want to make all this. Like, I just didn't want to make it. I actually wanted to turn bowls. And even though that was more ambitious, that's what I wanted to make.
Right.
So my enjoyment was going to be in the completion of a bowl, even though it was more work and a lot more failure and probably a little bit more money. It made it to where I could get in and have satisfaction. Turning a pen to me is okay, and a lot of people really enjoy it. They enjoy that process of making multiples and assembling them all, and you can sell them, and I know people can make a decent side living out of it. I just never enjoyed that structure.
Right.
I didn't want to look at instructions and turn to this ferrule or whatever they're called, the bushings. I didn't want to really do that. I wanted to take a big chunk of something and turn it and see what it became. I know that kind of seems like the typical turning answer is let the wood become what it wants to be. But it was just truly how I felt. I wanted to, just turn something big and turn it into a bowl, turn it into a vase or, whatever. But that's what I really wanted to do.
That makes sense.
So, I picked something, I did it, and I completed that. And of course, that's kind of what I do. I pick something and I kind of go full on into it. And then once I master it, I move on to the next thing.
That does check out because I have been following you for a little while now, and whatever your thing that you're on, you're definitely on.
Yeah.
Like the Lego thing, I was like, he's been on this Lego thing for like almost 2 weeks straight, just like I'm gonna get this,
and it's not over.
Yeah.
I feel like after today, messing with all the different materials here that you guys have, which is pretty amazing. There's a lot more than I thought you had, which is really cool. It's giving me a lot of ideas, but that Lego's not done.
Good.
Even if I got to go bigger.
Right.
Even if I got to find a way, if I could maybe, carve or maybe even 3D print and duplicate or something. There's a lot of cool things that you can do with that. But I really enjoy, it's almost artistic, the look and everything of Legos. They're so classic, but there's something.
They're so awesome.
Yeah, there's something about them that I just like them visually. I don't know really how to explain it, but they can quickly become a piece of art to me. Even if somebody painted a picture of it, or if they turned it, or I saw a guy recently just sent me a picture from his Instagram, and he had an entire Lego figure hand carved and turned out of wood, and he made a lamp out of it.
That's
I'm like,
cool.
that is so cool,
Yeah,
and it's
really
like
cool.
I wish that I would have set aside the time. I wish I would have thought of it.
Right. Right.
But that doesn't matter either. If I've done something and people copy it, I hopefully you do better than I did.
Right.
Hopefully
Right.
it takes you less time, or hopefully I can help you. But just like that, even though I didn't come up with the idea, I'll do that someday. I'll end up making me, or one of my kids, so I have an excuse so I don't look so nerdy. I'll end up making
just own
the
that
Lego.
nerdom. It's a good nerdom.
Yeah,
to own.
the whole room's mine anyway.
Right.
I own all the stuff. You're just the kid that's rent free. Yeah, so it's all mine.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah.
Speaking of kids, you got a couple kids.
Yeah.
A lot of the guys that are doing the wood turning stuff, and people that are making molds and doing all the castings, and people that use our products. Part of the point of this podcast is to help people inspire them, hopefully, to create their way through life. And a lot of that comes down to like the roles you play in your life, and you're a father. So for you, when you go out in the shop, what do you want your girls?
Yep. Two girls
to know about you? Because I know one of them's a little too young to understand right now.
Yeah, she's not quite there yet.
She's just smiling, and you're catching photos of her sneezing, which are super adorable.
Yeah.
But what do you want them to know about when you're going out there? Like, because it's communicating something.
Yeah.
In your mind, what do you want that to be?
Right now, there are some times that it's used as, my meditative space where I go out, I create and everything, and it creates a little bit of a separation, which isn't totally on purpose for the kids, but there is a time where I want to just focus. But there's a lot of times that my older girl, she'll be 4 next month, that she wants to come out, and she's always like, what are we going to build next? And she's always wanting to create something or work with me, and she just wants to be out there with me.
Right.
And I'm hoping that eventually she knows that that's going to be a nice, safe, happy space where we create and we have fun, not a dangerous space, not this is dad's space, not a kid's space, get out of here. It's never going to be like that.
That's awesome.
And that's truly what I'm hoping for, is that she is inspired to come out there and hang out and, create memories and have good quality time with both of them eventually.
Awesome.
But so far, the older one, she already has a bench that I made for her over Christmas. She has her own leather apron, and I've made her a couple tools.
That's so cool.
Yeah, so she's already at least interested.
So is the wife like, yes, go take her out to the shop? This is great.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. She's like, if you can get her, a half hour, get her out of my hair for a little bit, she's all right with that. Get the baby to sleep and get the toddler out in the garage. Try not to get hurt, keep the dust down.
Please don't hurt her.
Yeah.
So for one, thanks for sharing with that. That's cool.
Yeah.
How did you have a family member, like a dad or a grandpa or a grandma or a mom, or someone that was a maker in your childhood that was like kind of inspired you? Because my dad is creative in much different ways, but I this whole world is still very new to me. I mean, like Jordan, the maker that you've been working with all day, his grandpa definitely had a wood shop, definitely built stuff, that kind of thing. But like my grandpa was not that way. He liked tools, but it wasn't like a craftsman necessarily.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I had I think it's in my genes, but I had a great grandpa who he carved rifle stocks and he did inlay work and everything. And I saw some of his work when I was a kid, but I never met him. But then my grandpa, on my mom's side, he was a woodworker of sorts. He's more of a carpenter. Okay. He did a lot of cabinet stuff. He worked at a cabinet shop for a while when he was younger, and then we worked on his house together. We laid floors and did trim work and stuff. And he was really good at matching paints and stains, and like he would really, that was kind of his I don't know, the rabbit hole he wanted to go down is he would work all night to get a stain to look perfect. And then when I'd show up the next day, he's like, hey, I got it mixed just right for you.
That's so cool.
And that was kind of his thing. He really found enjoyment in getting colors right. And that was, and he created some other stuff. He did like shelves and chairs and stuff, and nothing too high end, not fine woodworking, but definitely a carpenter. And then my dad, he did a little bit of woodwork, and he always had, different crafts and stuff that he did. My mom did as well. My mom, she knits and crochets. And then it was maybe 8 years ago, my dad bought a pottery wheel for their garage.
Okay.
And so they found a new hobby, and about the time he retired, they're opening up an Etsy account and everything else.
Really?
And yeah, so he and
so
his...
it's definitely in your blood.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole creative side and everything. And my mom keeps bugging me about coming over, and she wants to turn something on the lathe.
That's awesome.
So yeah, so we're gonna make time for that real soon.
That's so cool.
Yeah, she's wanting me to turn knitting needles. So those seem like
I've seen some of those before. It's
I've
pretty
seen
cool.
some, but when you really get it down to it, they seem like they'd be real difficult.
Yeah, especially the
really
hook part.
Little
I'm
tiny
like,
pieces at the
how
end.
are you
Like
supposed to get in there properly?
yeah, I guess you got to carve it. You got to get out the hand tools.
Oh
so,
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it sounds like a pain.
Cool. So, all right, with that stuff in mind, when it comes to like tools and like getting in there and carving it, top 5 favorite tools. So we get questions sometimes like, hey, I want to hear specifics about these guys' process. Like, what are some of the tools they like to use, or what's their shop like, and like all those kinds of details. So, like for you, what's your top favorite tools that you kind of always return to, or like? And by the way, like this is not us asking for a plug. Or not, like,
no, you're fine.
Like I'm not fishing here. I genuinely care. So it could be anything.
I'll leave out some of the brands.
Yeah.
Well, the one I would say my favorite tool is my lathe.
Okay.
When I first bought it, I did not do anything with my table saw or my bandsaw or anything for almost a year. I did nothing but turn. The bandsaw, I roughed stuff out. That was about it. And I did nothing but turn. And then in the past year, I've kind of returned to that. It's so addicting. And even though it's a small lathe, I eventually want a bigger one. But that little lathe is a workhorse. A little 12-inch Rikon MIDI lathe.
Nice.
It's a really solid lathe, but it's just not physically big.
Right.
But yeah, it's been awesome. It's one of the best purchases I've made for my shop.
Cool.
So I'd say lathe is by far my favorite. Then table saw, bandsaw, those are the workhorses of the shop. When I'm doing, mallets, 99% of the entire process is on the table saw. And I mean, there's so much you can do with it as far as, doing tenons and, sizing things up. You can do raised panels. You can put, beveled edges on your cutting boards, everything else. It just seems like it's, just does just about everything.
That's awesome.
And then the bandsaw, it's great because, you can rough down lumber without the fear of it catching if it's not like a perfectly jointed edge, or if it's, not dried properly and it's going to pinch or something. I'd a lot rather happen on the bandsaw than on the table saw, where it can be really dangerous. And then my joiner and planer. Those are what create. There's something to be said about a board that is so perfectly flat and then so straight and everything. It just makes the whole process past that just go so much smoother. When you're clamping up, for a panel like the top of an end table or something, if everything's just going, you don't have to crank down those handles. You're not worried about aligning all the boards and everything. Everything just goes smoother. So the better your process of milling, everything else gets easier from there. So,
that's so cool.
That's probably a pretty typical at least those 4. That's probably pretty typical for a shop, unless you start getting like domino joiners and
I don't even know what a domino joiner
Oh.
is. I'm not that.
That's all right.
That's where I'm like Jordan. I'll always be like, "Hey, dude, what was a domino joiner?" But no, that's where someone is definitely gonna be in the comments like, "Why are you asking?" And then,
Yeah.
but like the reality is
That's
like
all
I'm
right.
trying to ask for the people that are actually listening because like. You didn't always have these tools, and it's
Yeah.
not like you just like went out and bought all of them.
Yeah,
unless,
it
like,
wasn't
you
one
were, like
kit.
blackout drunk, just like put on a credit card, it's fine. Like I'm just kidding, that didn't happen.
No.
But like you built up over time to the level that you're at, and
Yeah.
I guess that's what we want to encourage people to do. Is like you don't have to have all the proper tools.
Yeah.
If you want to start, you just got to start.
Yeah.
And that's the most important part.
Oh yeah, I mean, I seriously doubt that anybody that's in woodworking started out with a 3 horsepower cabinet saw. They started out with a job site saw, just like I did, and they just pushed it until the thing was just couldn't handle anymore. And then you finally upgrade reluctantly,
Right.
And then you're usually pretty happy after that because you gotta, you gotta
You bought
pay
an
to play.
expensive piece of equipment.
Yeah. But every tool of mine, started out as the smaller, kind of the construction grade version of it. And then you just slowly upgrade it over time. So, I know plenty of guys that have very well outfitted shops, better so than mine. And people are always saying, oh, if I had this many tools, I could build that too. Well, I started a long time ago.
Right.
And I didn't I'm not sponsored by these people.
Right.
I didn't get anything for free. I paid for it out of my own pocket. I worked
Right.
hard and slowly upgraded. So,
Right.
Anybody getting into it, if you can only afford a couple $100 for a table saw, then that's fine. It'll work.
Yeah.
And it might have some things that tick you off, but those are the things you'll watch out for when you buy the next one, So,
I think that's actually a really helpful piece of advice. So, top favorite project you've ever worked on. So, like, say, like in the shop, and maybe that changes, like you said, like monthly or whatever, whenever
Yeah.
the new exciting thing kind of enters the phase. But we talked a little bit about the mallets, and clearly that was a really exciting time for you. But
Yeah.
like, maybe in the last couple of months for you, what is maybe your top one, and then the one that's just like, oh my gosh, this thing is just killing me. I can't complete it or whatever.
Yeah.
So top of the mountain, and then the one that plummets you into the valley.
Well, right now, one of the top ones I've done in a while is right here. I have not been so excited about seeing a completed project because you guys did a lot of
pretty
this
cool.
before I got here. So, we all got to see it go together live. And that was just so satisfying
very
to see how
satisfying.
well it fits and everything. But I'd say aside from that, some of the spheres that I've made from resin, that they end up just so glass clear. You work so hard to turn them, to get them that perfect round, and then sanding and polishing. There's so much, and then you finally get there, and it worked. All that effort worked, and so far, that's some of the most satisfying stuff that I've made is, the resin and wood projects, just because it does take a lot of work to get there. So when you finally,
a lot of process.
yeah, when you finally get there and you finally get it right, because there are a few that you didn't go as well. When you finally get it right, it's extremely satisfying.
Is that like the Boba Fett one? Is that like,
Yes.
yeah, so that's one of the ones that I was really pumped to see. And then you've
Yeah,
done,
I've
a
done,
couple of different Lego
Boba,
ones.
and Mando, and I even got a Mickey Mouse one coming up.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah.
Careful, Disney's coming for you.
Yeah, well, these are the licensed products from Lego, so we're not
Go away,
making our
Disney.
own.
It's okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Everything's above board.
yeah. Actually, funny enough, the Mickey one is going to be for free, so I'm not even making money off.
Oh, there you
it.
go.
So there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't sue zero.
Right, that's very true. I think people have tried. Another thing that you showed us, you have this baby-sized all resin mallet, much like these.
Yeah, that's a perfect to scale version of these.
Okay.
That actually, I have a good friend that he makes baby rattles on Instagram, and Shelby Hahn, in case anybody wants to look
Shout
him up. Yeah, I think it's like Shelby 500 turns. I don't know.
On Instagram?
Yeah, we might have to, do you guys put links?
Yeah, we can put it in.
We'll put the link down.
Yeah,
they will. I won't.
Yeah, if we remember, we absolutely will put the link in the description.
But he makes baby rattles, and then he donates all of the earnings from that to different foundations
that's
for
cool.
foster care kids,
That's
which is
very
really
cool.
cool. So I've helped promote a few things for him, just because he's a good friend of mine. And then I had this really cool idea to take one of my mallets and make it miniature and put BBs in it, and I made a little baby rattle. And
that's pretty fun.
I had all these parts, and
pretty
I
fun.
ended up shipping it to him, all the parts, and he's made a few more with it. And
That's
so
cool.
that one was actually a duplicate of my daughter's miniature mallet. Thanks.
Oh yeah, I could put it in the actual. Yeah, this is what I was talking about for those
Yeah.
that are curious.
And so
They're actually watching.
she makes, or she has a walnut mallet that's this exact one. So it actually isn't a rattle. I just made it for her so she can use it in the wood shop.
That's so fun.
And so I made a duplicate of hers, and she's already claimed this, so I have to take this back
good.
with me.
Good. It's a very cool blue.
Yeah.
I think Eric, our editor, is a little disappointed because it's very cool.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I think the daughter definitely wins that
Yeah,
one.
she wins over most people.
Yeah.
So
So, oh, gosh, there was another question.
it was I gave you the high, and then
Yeah, I wanna
now I
know
got to
the
give
low.
you the worst.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's been a couple projects in the past that have just been less than inspiring, and it's usually client builds where they want something that really doesn't fit within my creative ideas, or I throw out ideas and they're like, why would you do that? I'm like, well, I don't know. I'm the creative one here.
I'm the one that's actually
I don't
doing
want to
this.
be mean, but like this is my hobby. I'm not doing this for a living. I want to build things that I want to build. And sometimes I kind of get, sucked into doing things that are probably good woodworking projects, but they just aren't inspiring to me.
Got it.
So, and that's why a lot of times if I don't do client work and I'm building like a coffee table or a dining table or an end table or something, it's usually right out of my head. So if it's ugly, just totally blame me.
Oh, got it. That's funny.
But yeah,
So-
I'd say just in general, there's been a couple projects that just been less than inspiring, but I can't really think one specifically without,
Right.
digging in too deep,
right.
getting into a dark space.
I don't want you to go there. Don't go dark.
No,
I want you
we're
to
not.
stay up and light and positive.
Sounds good.
The woodworking community is a very interesting community.
Mm-hmm.
I interact mostly online with that community because of the products we sell and the support that we want to give that community. It's also so welcoming.
Yeah.
Everybody is so encouraging, but also willing to share ideas.
Yeah.
And it's very clear the ones that aren't willing to share ideas because they don't really last that long.
Yeah.
And they might show up. They might have some skill. They might be really cool, make some great stuff.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem like they last all that long because this whole world kind of thrives on the sharing of the information of
Yeah.
oh, I've never seen a turn like that. I've never seen an edge look like that.
Yeah.
How did you even do that?
That's actually something when I first got on the Instagram that I would see something and I would always message them and say, hey, would you care if I, tried that myself, try to make another version of it? And I never had anybody say no. Everybody is so welcoming. And then they, help me learn how to make it, learn how to make the clamping piece that, held something in a weird, form or something.
Right.
And everybody's always been so helpful. But yeah, there's definitely a difference between the people that just post really nice stuff and they're not really part of the community. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Some people are like Travis, the guy I brought up here with me. He's a business owner. He has to run a business. He doesn't have time to be answering messages and doing all this stuff. So, his is more promoting a business and mine is a hobby. And, the Instagram and the talking to people is part of that hobby, and the creating the video is part of that hobby. So,
Right.
that's where, you can't really blame somebody for not being as involved. I guess some people probably have another excuse. They just don't want to.
Right.
But I think
Just
if you
don't actually like
I
talking
really
to
think
people.
that
Yeah.
if you're a woodworker and you're creating cool stuff and you're on Instagram, you're on there because it feels good to have other people comment or compliment or maybe throw out suggestions or maybe you run into something weird that you can't figure out.
Right.
And everybody's been there.
Right.
Everybody's had that same situation where they didn't know how to do a thing and they wish that they had 1,000 people that they could throw it out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. If even one of them answers back, that would have been a win. And now you have that.
Yeah.
So
what is the advice you'd give someone that is new that's entering the space if they were going to message you? What should they lead with instead? Because here's the thing: so a lot of people lead with just asking for something, or that might require a lot of time from someone.
Yeah.
and they might not know that. Is there any better way if someone was scared to ask you a question? I'm
Yeah.
not saying someone is. I'm not saying that that's something that happens regularly, but someone might be.
Yeah.
Like, oh, he's
I
got
think-
this many followers. I can't ask him a question. He's too busy, or
Yeah.
he's not real, or he's got to be making so much money off his Instagram, which immediately you'd be like, that's hilarious.
yeah. No, I'm not,
That's
not
not
making
real.
very much at all.
Yeah.
A lot of people, I think they have messaged me and they say, hey, I know you're really busy, or hey, I'm not sure if you'll answer back to this. And I always answer back. The only ones I don't answer back is if you send me a blurry photo or you just say hi.
Yeah. And then you're like,
If you want
hello?
to, yeah. What do I say to that? Like, what do you want?
Yeah.
But yeah, I have people ask me all the time, like, would you mind if you shared your mallet dimensions? Absolutely. I'm not hiding anything. Actually, if you dig on my YouTube channel, there's an old video that has every single dimension on it. So I can't hide anything. It's out there. And I put everything out in videos and pictures. It's pretty obvious that I'm not trying to hide anything. Yeah, if you dug hard enough and I didn't tell you, you could figure it out. But yeah, anybody that wanted to message me and ask me a specific about any issues I've had with resin, or what resin I would use in a certain situation, I would answer them honestly. And if I couldn't answer, then I'd probably steer them to you guys or whoever they need to for that situation. So, but I've never been that type of person that just flat ignored unless it's weird.
Right.
Which I think that should be.
I mean, there's always.
It should be understood that if you send me a blurry photo, I'm just not going to open it.
It's good. I think that's a wise thing for your phone and for your mind.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to set you up for this now. It's just so you know. I every podcast that I do, it doesn't actually matter which podcast I've ever done. I give the person that I'm asking all of the questions an opportunity to ask me a question.
Sure.
Because I think it's only fair.
Yeah.
Because I'm sitting here just like, hey, tell me everything that's going on inside your brain, and then I'm just going to sit here.
I am not prepared for this.
So yeah, exactly. So you get time to think about that.
Okay.
So you can ask me anything, and then a question about Alumilite, question about my work, whatever. Our process of how we make stuff doesn't matter. So everything's on the table there. But I'm super curious. The people that are currently inspiring you to continue doing the work that you're doing, because I think, like I talked about the community earlier, I think it's important to kind of acknowledge the people that kind of help you grow, but also maybe inspire you to like keep making the things that you're making.
Yeah.
So maybe feel free to like give as many shout outs or whatever, whoever.
Yeah.
But like, I think it's important to like, recognize the people that help you get to where you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think I said that right.
Yeah. I got you. Yeah. I mean, I have a lot of, what I would consider close friends on Instagram. There's a lot of people that I'll message every once in a while, and there's a lot of people that follow me and I'll comment back and forth. But then there's, I'd say, 20 to 30 people that I would consider close friends that I could literally ask them anything or show them any picture of a project and get honest feedback from. And, if I draw something out and it just looks weird, I can always ask them for, their advice. And I have a lot of friends that I'm able to, lean on them, and they can lean on me for the same thing. Paul Jasper from Copper Pig Design.
Okay.
Copper Pig Custom Woodworking. I don't remember.
For being a close friend, I think you should know.
Yeah. His name's Paul Jasper.
Paul Jasper. Good thing you do know his name.
Yeah.
I'm going to look it up while you keep going.
Yeah, there you go. He's one of those guys that he does something similar where he kind of goes down this rabbit hole of a project, but he doesn't fail very much.
Really?
He may say he does, but he does some incredible work, and he kind of goes down and he will do one item and just knock it out of the park. And he has such good design and such good, he has an eye for, the right colors and the right, metal combinations with wood and everything else.
Okay.
And he's one of those guys that I can lean on him for ideas and inspiration and just about anything. And he's just one of those super good guys. And another one would be Eric Curtis, Ian Curtis on Instagram. He's on YouTube as well.
Okay.
And that guy he teaches a shop class at I think a high school.
Oh, really?
And he is so creative. He works with hand tools, works with power tools, and he will make an absolutely beautiful box. And then right after that, he'll make a box that has like spider legs coming out of it. And it's just absolutely beautiful stuff. And he just makes what he wants. And he's just so creative. And he doesn't care if he gets a lot of flack for a weird design. It's his design. He's going to run it into the ground until he feels good about it.
Right.
And then he'll hang it in his home or his office and enjoy it. And he's one of those guys that you can look to him and ask him and get an honest opinion out of him. And if you make something weird and he likes it, he'll just tell you.
That's so good. Yeah.
And there's a lot of people, but those are the two that probably come to mind, the most as, the more creative ones that I lean on.
Cool.
Yeah.
And when you say creative, what do you mean? Because I think creative, for everybody, has their own interpretation of creativity and what that like translates.
Yeah.
Because one of the things about this podcast, like, we believe everybody's creative.
Yeah.
How you exercise that creativity varies very much depending on what you do with your life. And it doesn't matter if you're a stay-at-home parent or if your full-time job is in a creative field. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You just happen to be creative in those different scenarios. If you hear any weird bangings, it's because my children are right outside the door and they're just hitting the door randomly.
You'll have to remind me what we were just saying.
It's quite all right.
so
I'm totally
thrown off
distracted by my kids hitting on the door. I was
my
talking
gosh,
about how
that's
everyone
funny.
is creative. So,
there we go. Creativity
the
and
two
what that means to me.
Yeah, but also the two guys that, they like, oh, these guys are really creative.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, what does that mean? So
Yeah.
in your mind, like, what about them is like really creative for you?
I tell you, and this is something that me and both those guys have talked about quite a bit, is that, there's, some saying to the effect of every creative thing has already been done. Every new idea has already been done. There's no new ideas. There's no new things. And I think me and those two completely disagree with that. That eventually you're going to create the next big thing, the next new thing. I do believe somebody else has done this, but a solid resin head on a mallet, I don't know that I've seen it done.
Yeah, I don't. This is definitely the first time
I will
I've
have to be
seen it
honest.
done.
I think there is one other guy, but he did it in layers. It was a little bit different. Andrew
Okay.
Jose. He is. I think he's talked to you guys a little bit
we've
as well.
talked to them before.
I'll have to find his picture, but I think he's done a version of
Okay.
this. So I can't say it's completely original, but there's all kinds of things you can do with this and make it your own and make it something that's never been done before.
Right.
And those two guys agree that eventually you're going to create something that came from something, and sure, it may have derived from, an original.
But that doesn't mean that it's not new. That is actually new because it's
Absolutely.
not what it was before.
Yeah. Just because you're not, inventing the wheel doesn't mean you can't reinvent it into something totally different that looks different, works different, and,
Right.
kind of go down that path.
Right.
So, if you keep on working with different materials and, different processes, and you're eventually going to stray so far off where you originally started that you can't help but go into something that's never been done before.
Yeah, that's cool. No, see, so creativity, if I were going to wrap it up, is like the constant discovery of something new
Absolutely.
for yourself.
Yeah.
Cool. I think that's a good way of putting
You
it.
wrapped it up really well.
Oh, thank you. It's like I've hosted a podcast before.
Yeah.
So, all right, it's your turn now. You get to ask me a question, and then we'll wrap this sucker up. I don't want to keep you from your daughters too long, and/or your wife, because it's snowing and it's Michigan and it's dangerous out there.
Yep. Ready to get back south.
Yeah, you're like really, not that far south. It's
Yeah.
just Indiana.
Just south enough to get away from the snow. That's all I
Right.
ask.
You don't have the lake effect, so there's that. Yep.
Man. That's
And
it.
if you don't have anything,
Well,
that's also okay.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, because we've talked so much today. I feel like I've got a grasp on where you guys are going with helping creators out there, and I don't know. I mean, you guys have guys representing your company that are going down to Workbench Con. I think that's great that you guys are going to get down there and get your boots on the ground with some of the most creative people that I've ever met will be all in one space here in a couple weeks, which is pretty amazing. So I don't know if I really have a question for you, but I just really enjoy that you guys are, right in here with it, with, the people that are going to be using your products, and you guys are willing to do stuff like this, invite us out and let us, waste a bunch of your product on some weird stuff. And,
It's not wasteful. It's not wasteful because you made something new today.
Well, this isn't all we made. We did waste some over there.
Yeah, we got a lot of fun skulls and a lot of random stuff.
But no, I think me, Travis, and anybody else that you guys work with really appreciate what you guys are doing and
thank you.
letting us toy around and play with some really awesome new stuff,
Cool. Well, I'm glad that you've enjoyed it. I'm glad that you answered my Instagram questions like you said you do.
Yep.
I think it was back in September. I think is probably when we first started chatting.
Yeah.
I can't remember if I called you on Instagram. I feel like there was.
We messaged a couple times, but
I think a phone call.
I think we just had a phone call.
We did have a phone call in the car.
Yep.
Yeah, because I used to have an hour-long commute, and I was like, I'll just call this guy. I got to get to know him a little bit better.
Yep.
So, no, I appreciate it, man. I really do. And thank you for making the trip up here. And thanks for being on the show. Thanks for being on the podcast. Thanks for working with us. It's a lot of fun, man.
Yeah, this was great.
Cool.
Really appreciate it.
All right, man. All right, that's it.